Hi, everybody. Welcome to Essential Pedagogy Podcast. I am Stephanie the Educator, or Steph the Educator. I like Steph now. I don't know why. It's my old age. I like Steph. I had started this podcast with the intention to build compassion around where I've been working for the last 20 years. I've been in education for 20 years. And I want, as a result of you listening to this podcast, for people like you to, within my profession and outside, and all others, to grow in compassion for public education and the American education system here in the United States. It's really a ministry that I have embraced, that I got a lot to say about this topic, and I believe a lot of people do too. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest. Her name is Natisha Booker. She is related to education because she's not just a person that is concerned about our future, but she worked in education for many years as a social organizer, and I would say kind of like a social worker within the schools. She worked for a company called Community in Schools for a number of years, and she is a dedicated mother who he graduated in the public school sector, and he's doing well and thriving and going for his dreams. And I got some things to talk to you guys about that, about her son. He's just so awesome. I adore him, and he has found a way to express himself in a way that is tapping into his talent. So I really, really appreciate how she has done things in her personal life as well as in her professional life towards education. So without further ado, I want you to say, we'll see, Natisha Booker. Hi, Natisha.
Hello. Good evening.
I thought I was going to start automatically. Okay, so Natisha, talk to me about how you got involved in education with community in schools, and what your role was, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll talk about some other things that I talk about with every guest. Go ahead.
Okay. So I always wanted to work with kids, and my initial goal was to become a teacher. But right out of college, I didn't do the teacher certification in college. So right out of college, my godmother said, "Oh, you like to work with kids? You should check out this nonprofit organization called Communities in Schools, and you can work there while you're working on getting your certification." And that's what I did. Signed up and fell in love with working with the kids, working with students. And I did eventually get my teacher certification, but never went into the classroom. I preferred working with the students on a social aspect, and I felt like I could help them more in the role that I was in than being in the classroom. So I did that for 17 years before I moved on to something else. And I'm still close with some of my students that I worked with in middle school and high school.
I know. Isn't that so rewarding?
It is. It makes me feel old, though, because they have kids of their own, and it's like, wait, how old am I?
I know, right?
For the kids that I'm with to have kids, like, wow.
I know. I said, I've been doing this for a good long while, 20 years. So that makes me about 30. I will tell you that I taught some people in middle school who, honey, they're on their third child. I'm like, y'all passed me up with in the children's.
Yeah,
Ooh, huh. Thank God y'all didn't,
yeah,
get get in the teaching field, or else they curved that back a little bit. um, so yeah, time flies,
right.
and I want you to talk to me a little bit about your experiences in communities and schools and working with the students and what your role was. If you were not a teacher, what did you do?
Okay. So, Communities and Schools is a nonprofit organization that is contracted into the school districts throughout DFW. And what they do is they support the staff there, specifically counselors. They are not counselors, they're not school counselors. They are more closer to social workers on campus than they are counselors. And
Mhm.
basically, what we did was support and work with students who were just having day-to-day trouble. When I was on campus, I had a caseload of, if there were two people on campus, we had 235 students on our caseload. And
Wow.
what that entailed is we checked their grades, we checked in with them, we put them in groups based on the issues that they were having. If they were failing, we provided tutoring for them or got them tutors, but it wasn't just, oh, we have to get you passing. It was, why are you failing? What's going on that's not helping you in the classroom? And what can we do to help? We had groups that dealt with incarcerated parents, pregnant and parent teens, students who were in foster care, students who were being abused, students who had anger management issues, you name it. I did a lot of trainings and coursework in ISS, because they couldn't go anywhere. So I would ask the ISS teacher, okay, give me 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the day. And I went in there and we did anger management classes and we talked to them about different ways of expressing themselves without using their fist and without being physical and how to communicate. And so we literally were there to support the staff in any way possible.
Yeah, that's great. Great. So, you and I have talked a little bit about, some of the things that, I had to build compassion around.
Hmm.
Some topics that I needed to build compassion around. And one of those topics was your sexual bend and preference, and some of the things that students go through that I don't necessarily talk to or get to know them on that level with. But you've had that opportunity in being in the organization that you are in. You had more of an opportunity. I know I'm with the kids for a long time, but
Hmm.
I have a specific goal, is to get them to understand science on as deep a level as they can. And so sometimes, I have to tell them that, hey, let's stop all that crying and let's get to work, right? Like, so I'm
Right.
ultra
Right.
focused on trying to get the teaks across. Not that I don't care, but like we've always said on this podcast, that the system is very overwhelmed. So thank God
Hmm.
there are organizations like Communities in School to help out. So talk to me about more about some of the things you saw in the schools that you were able to help students work through so that they could be
Hmm.
successful academically.
I think one of the biggest things that we did that was key, giving students an opportunity to have a voice, to have a place where they can speak their mind
Mm-hmm.
without being judged. And so you mentioned, sexuality. And when I first started, back in late 90s, that was kind of taboo to talk about. And, nowadays everyone's fluid with the he, she, we, and,
Hey,
gender, and call me this and that. Yeah. Back then you were either straight or gay. There wasn't,
yeah.
and if you were gay, something was wrong with you,
Hmm.
which if you're in a bad situation at home, and then you have these feelings of inadequacy, and then you have these sexual feelings for someone of the same sex, and then you have the social concept of being in school and all your friends are different from you. That's a lot that you have to work through. And then you have a quiz, or you have a science test, or you have, it's like you on this and you're out. Where's my next meal coming from? Why is it that when Jonathan walks in the room, my heart starts beating? Like, is it because he's my
Hmm.
homeboy and I like him, or is it because I like him? This is what the
Yeah.
kids are going through, and all that our organization did was give them 10 minutes to get it out, to say what they're feeling, to have a safe place to communicate. And then we would form groups of like-minded students so that they had peers that they could talk to and
Yeah.
discuss what was going on, and just giving them a place so that they can get whatever's on their mind out. And then we
And
would
then
say,
they can
okay,
focus wholly in
you've,
class. That's
yes,
my goal.
now I've given you 10 minutes. Yeah, but that's exactly what it was. I've given you 10 minutes to get that out. Now I need for you, for the remaining 30 minutes, I need for you to go back to class and work. And then we can talk again at lunch. We can talk again tomorrow. But we only did short little periods so
Yeah.
that get that little bit out for your mind, and now go focus on what you're here to do, which is your education.
Yeah. Yeah. I find, and thank you to our guest that he keeps coming back and listening to us and commenting. And so I just want to acknowledge her. I don't know your name, but tell us your name so I can acknowledge you properly. But she comes back every time and talks and dialogues with us. And she said that there's more and more students that are becoming vocal and they learn in a different way. And what do you think, besides how there's been a shift in our mindset and in understanding where other people are coming from, as far as feeling a certain way, working out some of their own personal feelings, maybe for another person, or trying to decipher what is right and wrong in their own minds and hearts. um, why do you think now things are so different than it was back then, in the mid early 90s, as,
I just
as far as
think
kids being more vocal?
I think that the internet is key. I think that people feel way more confident online than they do in person. And it's a twofold, because sometimes they are so confident online that they are ugly and mean to people, and they would say things that they would never say to someone in their face.
Oh yeah.
But you're also seeing online a group, like you're able to be like, oh wow, I'm not alone, there's a whole community of people just like me. And you can read articles, and I'm not saying, there was internet back then, but it's just completely changed. I mean, think about the last 2 years, 3 years now. We went from face to face, sitting in a classroom, to virtual tutoring, virtual working from home, podcast online. That was not a thing in the late 90s. There were
Oh
podcasts, yeah. and people were sitting there with microphones, and you had to get a meeting room, and you face to face, or you were on the phone. This just wasn't a thing, and there was internet, but it's just the progression of where things are going. So because I think, because of the internet, because of the communities that people are building online, good and bad, it's
Yeah,
helping them be way more expressive, which is allowing them to understand themselves a little more and be a little bit more confident. But,
absolutely.
with all of the great things that happen, there's also the negatives of, bullying online and things like that. But we're not going, I don't want to get into
Also,
that.
I feel like television has a part too. When we were coming up, television went off at a certain time. Uh, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it did. It went off. You knew this.
Mm-hmm.
It was too late because the national anthem would come on and the flag would start waving, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's time to go to bed. It's time to, nothing else to
Yep.
entertain us. It's done, folks. It's gone. It's over."
Yeah.
Now we have so many
And
things. Yeah, go ahead. I can't hear you. Okay,
I
maybe.
was saying, and then after the national anthem, then it was the stripes. It was
Yeah,
just the boop, and
yeah.
that was
Just
it. But yeah,
yeah. So who's going to stay up and watch that? But now TV is when you
right.
want it. Your show is when you want it. Everything is on
Hmm.
demand when you feel like it. I feel like that is emboldening people to speak what they feel like. Try to put in their order for right now. Let
Hmm.
me tell you what I want right now because I'm accustomed to organizing myself this way or being served in this manner. Right? I
Right.
daily I have to tell students what you want right now is not that important. Have yourself a seat
Hmm.
so I can take attendance. Thank you. As soon as they come in, they want their need. I need to use the restroom. I need to do this. I need to do that. I left my, I want, can I get a Band-Aid? I'm gonna need you to sit
Hmm.
down. But they're used to, and so I have to act with compassion, knowing that these children have been conditioned by our society to push a
Yeah.
button, get whatever, order up, get it now, and just remind them, listen,
Hmm.
I'm not a computer for you to punch in your order or what have you, to punch in all your desires or what you want and you get it now. I need you to sit down. I'm one person. Have yourself a seat. I'm going to take attendance. That's
Right.
what I need to do. I gave you something to do. So, another thing is, in watching television, I feel like, and I'm not really anti Disney, although some their shows, I'm not a big fan of Disney shows. Those little sitcoms they have, in my opinion, they try to make parents look like bumbling idiots, or all adults, may not even be a parent, but all adults in the shows, because the children are the superstars. So they're the smartest people in the
Right.
room. They tend to know more than what's going on really for real than the parents. They're oblivious of what's going on in the world, and that's
Hmm.
just not how life is in real life. But we have kids that are acting these kinds of things out because of what they see and what they've been seeing for decades on TV. I feel like that's a problem. And you call me anti Disney, but I really do. I feel like that is a
For sure.
huge, huge issue. I tell the kids all the time, you're not,
Yeah.
Disney classroom is not the real thing. So you don't get to entertain the class with your snarly remarks,
Yeah.
you know, so that you can get laughs. And we all banter around and watch all the people you know, have this camaraderie, kinship of
Right.
jokey, right? And making fun of people. Like this is not what's happening. This is not the real
Hmm.
classroom. What you see on TV is not the real classroom. So they don't realize they're doing this. I realize, and sometimes I vocalize it, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. But That's where I feel like some of that behavior is coming from. It irritates me to no end.
Yeah.
Uh, but every day I try to
It's
cleanse myself to have more compassion every day.
it's funny you say that because um I was I was the parent that these kids probably would run away from home. So my kid didn't we didn't have cable until 5th grade.
Mhm.
So cartoons to him were Arthur and Clifford and Reading Rainbow. It was all the PBS. It was Dragon Tales, and he was introduced to Disney at my parents' house and
Mm.
loved it. But we had to have discussions after every episode to break down these episodes. So, unfortunately or fortunately, because of the job that I had, and then being a new mom, everything that I ran into at school, I came home and was like, okay, kid, look, stuff. What tell me what's going on. So we would watch That's So Raven and I can't even think of the Disney shows. And then we would have to have a discussion and say, okay, now in real life, the mama would have stopped the kid from bullying. In real life, you can't just go downtown, catch a bus, and go downtown to the store like the kid in the movie did. You can't do that. That's not real life. And
Mhm.
he would say like, "Oh, you ruining it for me." And it's like, "Yeah, but I can't. If you want to continue to watch these shows, I need for you to understand that's not real.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't talk to me that way. You will
Yeah.
not go and slam your door in your room. You will wake up without a door." Uh, like, so that was the kind of parent I was. And, you know, I don't regret it at all.
I
But,
don't think you should. I really feel like you took it upon yourself to have teaching moments. And I feel like that's what we're
right,
supposed to do as parents. In addition to,
right.
you know, that's how you build relationship with your own child. That's how you
Hmm.
uncover what sometimes they may be going through silently that you don't know about, is through conversations
Right.
that isn't weighty, that you may be watching a show. My sons and I will watch the news together and have discussions about whatever the daily news was about. And it wasn't always like, oh, do you like this politician or that? It was just the local shows of, parents giving consent on tattooing kids or something like that. And we was like, hey, I had a discussion with my child over that. And it was a very interesting conversation,
Hmm.
to the point that he is old enough to get a tattoo, way old enough. He's 24. He doesn't have one yet. And I tend to think it's because of our conversation when he was in 6th grade. We had a conversation about it from watching the news. I feel like if parents do that more, that there'll be less suicide in the age range that we see them. I feel like it would be less um, dropout. Dropout rates would decrease. I just think it just overall is better for students. The being a part of the learning process is really inserting yourself in your child's life. You will find out what's going on in school
Hmm.
if you just insert yourself in your child's life. But if you let the computer, the television, the everything
Hmm.
be their parent, then there's no telling what um, they will get themselves into, or if they will be or the bully, or if they will be bullied and you don't know about it until it's too late. Because
Hmm.
kids do. This is Bully
Yeah.
Awareness Week. If anybody knew, I know I'm a teacher, but it's it's bully awareness. And we've been teaching the kids about it, and we teach them that sometimes you
Hmm.
can be the bully, And sometimes you can be the one being bullied, and how that can happen. And we showed, little clips about how easily you can slip into one thing or another based on what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to talk to you about
Yeah.
some of the questions that I ask a lot of my guests. Okay. So are you ready?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I wanted to make one. I know, I like
Go
to
ahead.
talk, girl,
You go.
about the
Go.
parents being a part of the learning process. I think it's really important because um, you are supposed to know your child better than the teacher does. And so if the teacher is telling you, hey, your kid is struggling in reading, and you're like, what? If a parent is saying, I didn't even know that, that means you're not reading with your kid. If you don't know that your child is struggling in reading, that means that you're not doing anything with your child at home. The parent is supposed to be the advocate. The parent is supposed to be the one that pushes. And I'll use my situation. I had a child in DISD. Yes, I'm calling them out because they got to do better. I had a child who was in the gifted and talented program, who was reading and intelligent, and everybody loved him. And at the end of the third grade year, they told me, well, we're going to have to hold him back. And I'm like, he's a straight A student. What are you talking about? Well, when he took his standardized test, his reading fluency, right, how fast he read, was on a first grade level. And I said, oh my gosh, wow, okay. I said, and what were his other scores? Well, his comprehension was on a fifth grade level, but because he's reading slow, we want to hold him back. I'm sorry, what? So you're telling me that you want to hold back my child? He's comprehending on a fifth grade level, and you want to keep him in the third grade, and you think he's going to be successful? Or is he going to be bored out of his mind and be disruptive in class with
Mm-hmm.
repeating all of the things? He knows everything, he just reads slow. And instead of telling me, hey, why don't we learning disability solution was, we're just going to hold him back because that's
Mm-hmm.
my child and I know he's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Give more, he's reading slow for that. And moving forward, I made the decision to say, okay, he's reading slow, but I know he's comprehending. So we got books on Audible. I made sure that he read a chapter, I read 2 chapters to make sure he kept up with the classwork. But parents have to be the advocate for their kids.
And not
And
just
not to say
asking,
that
they need
teachers
to
don't know
know.
what to
They
do.
need to know before the teacher calls what kinds of things that their child is struggling with.
Exactly.
And then don't blame the school
Exactly.
system 100%, right? Don't blame the school system
Right.
100%. Your child is having difficulties. Don't act all brand new. That's how. Don't act brand new when I call you and your child's in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and I'm saying that he's not a good reader and that we
Right.
need to work.
And you
Don't
don't
act like
read with him at
I've
home.
never heard of this. Well, have you read it
Right.
with your child? Yeah.
Have you sat
Oh,
down with your child and said, hey, tell me what you're learning in school?
yeah, yeah.
So,
So kids are
okay.
showing
I
signs
just
of
had
depression.
to
How
give
is
my
this
little.
handled in school? Oh my gosh. Well, more and more our counselors are active in dealing with students' issues when it comes to depression. Unfortunately, depression is very silent unless you're acting out in a certain way. So a lot of times
Yeah.
you don't get seen in public school settings unless you are failing, you picking on somebody else, right? Some kind of symptom has to show in order for the school system to deal with it. Otherwise, we leaving you alone. Oh, you passing everything? Good, because
Mm-hmm.
Johnny over here knocking down chairs and pushing everything off the
Exactly.
table. You know what I mean? Like, so it just depends on how this is manifesting. If depression is manifesting in behavior issues, if depression is manifesting in ways that is, you know, cause for alarm for a student, which is, failing grades, um, picking on other people, getting into trouble with, their peers
Mhm.
or adults. Yeah. So that's how it's handled. Unfortunately, um, this unfortunately we don't see it all, and I will
Yeah.
employ that a lot of times parents aren't seeing anything unless we bring it to their attention, and that's sad.
Mhm.
I feel like if you live with the child, you should see things more faster than any ancillary communities in
Mhm.
school, public school teacher, counselor, principal. You should be the first line of defense and finding out. Sometimes kids are really good at hiding things from their home life, but I feel like if you have the relationship with your child, you will know if something's going on with them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we're gonna end this with I got a couple of questions. Okay. So what do you
Okay.
think is the greatest lesson you've learned from anybody? Oh my gosh, you're frozen. Okay.
Um, I think the greatest lesson. Oh, I think the greatest lesson I've learned is to go after my dreams and my goals. I can get very comfortable and cozy in a little box and stay there and be like, oh, I'm fine. This is fine. And one of my dearest friends is always pushing me to get out of that box. She's always trying to get me to do something different, to do something new. And, if I say, oh, I like this, then next thing I know, she's like, okay, well, I contacted so and so and they want to hear, they want to talk to you about that idea that you had. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, I just said I liked it. And she's like, yeah, but throw it out there, try it out, see what happens. She's always pushing me to do something more, and she's very successful, so watching her do it, it kind of motivates me to be like, okay,
Mhm.
she's right, and sometimes I fail, I'm not gonna lie, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's a lesson learned. I learned something, and then you know move on, do something
Okay.
else.
So what do you think is the greatest lesson you've taught anyone?
um I hope that the greatest lesson I've taught someone is to have compassion and be caring to other people.
Mhm.
Um, Not just those in your immediate circle, but open the door for someone, even if they don't say thank you. If you see someone struggling, or you see someone that may need your help, don't assume that they need your help, but ask them, hey, would you like me to help you with that? um,
Yeah.
just compassion for others. There's a lot of times that people look at people like us and don't give us any compassion, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't give compassion back.
Yeah.
So
It's true. You. I just love you because you are like that. I love you. I love you. Um,
love you
I
too.
want to thank you for being on the show. This 30 minutes goes by fast, huh?
It
Like I feel like
does,
I have
yeah.
more questions, right? Have more questions, but I think you covered a lot with working at a nonprofit organization that walks along public schools and help children who need the help. Uh, I hope that community and school earn all the money they need to in order to continue the good works they've done, because I've had positive experiences with that organization. And I just like to see it
Yeah.
thriving and keep going. Unfortunately, you're not working
Awesome.
there anymore. So
I'm not.
we'll just table that for
But
another
I know
show.
people. Yeah.
You know people,
I
you
still
know
have
people.
friends. Yes, I still have friends that work there. Like I said, I was
Okay.
there 17 years, and it was my close friend I just talked about. She was the one that said, "Okay, girlfriend, it's time for you to
Yeah,
move around, push me
yeah,
out of the box." But yeah, no, it's a great organization. So
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Natisha. And we're signing off. This is Essential Pedagogy, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we'll have someone talking about finance. We'll see
Oh,
if
that
that
would be
schedule works
awesome.
out. Yeah. We'll see if that schedule works out. That's what I'm working on. So we'll see if that works out. Hopefully, that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. We'll get an
Awesome.
educator, yeah, to talk about it. Okay. Thank you so much, Natisha, and I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having me.